Hi there. In this episode, this is interesting. I turned my back on the bed and now I can't remember where I put that potato. The thing is, if I lay them out, Joey's going to go off with one of them. I'm looking at my chitted spuds and I'm looking at my bed, which is a raised vegetable bed box. Not very full of the old soil just yet, because I know that I'm going to have to build up my spuds, bank them, I believe is the correct term. So again, we are in the gardening podcast proving enormous amounts of inexpertise when it comes to something new. So this has been the challenge, or it is the challenge, isn't it, with gardening, that when you come to do something for the first time, it is just that. It's that awkwardness of it being the first time. I'm never sure how things are going to go, and I'm nervous. I won't deny it about the world of potato growing. I mean, I think I get in my own way sometimes. I should just get on with it, which is what we're going to do. So I've got 9, 10 chitted potatoes. A few months ago I didn't know what that was, but it just means some stuff growing out of it that might grow a bit more. And I batched them into 2 lots when they first arrived, these earlies, thinking that the ones in the dark box in the greenhouse wouldn't grow at all. In fact, I'd be storing them for a kind of backup batch in case the first batch went horribly wrong. And the other batch, the other half, went in the house. I've even had it on the radiator at some point, just to really bring it along. Barely moved. Happened to go in the earlies box in the greenhouse earlier, and what's happened? They've been forced. They're all chitted, they're all ready to go. So, a learning curve about how to chit potatoes, and does it matter? Who knows? So, I might have mentioned in a previous podcast about, I did mention, I don't know, I'm trying to pretend I didn't, that I had become a little bit like my parents, and I have recreated the garden that I grew up with. So I've recreated that garden. So I called my dad up and said, potatoes, Dad, what did you do? And he basically made it sound very simple. As long as the soil doesn't get too wet or they rot. Uh-oh. So I suppose I ought to just get stuck in. He said basically bury them. You keep burying them. Every time they appear, you just keep burying them. Which for him was quite straightforward. Normally he's a bit more elaborate with his explaining. So, a box of spuds. I think I'm going to have to be quick about because I think Joey will think these are balls and try and eat them. So let's get one in the ground. There's my trusty trowel. I like this one. It's got a little leather strap to hold it up on a hook in the shed. Makes it look very professional. So I'm assuming, dig a little hole, bob it in, chit side up, little sprouty side up, and then you cover it. And then you wait for the sprout to come along again, and then you cover that, and you keep covering. Oh, I've just found caterpillar larva. Oh, I must have disturbed it in the soil. Well, I'm glad I've disturbed you, because you're now being jettisoned into the Corona Wildflower Meadow of Hope, my dear. Bye-bye. Because we don't want caterpillars crawling all over the spuds. Now, this is a thing. This is interesting. I turned my back on the bed and now I can't remember where I put that potato. The thing is, if I lay them out, Joey's going to go off with one of them. I know what I'll do. I'll put a marker down. So let's take a breather there and find out what's been happening in your garden.
Hi everyone, my name is Audrey and I live in Llanelli in South Wales. I'm relatively new to gardening. It's been going 4 years now and it's my new passion. I absolutely adore it and spend every minute that I can in my garden. This week it's a bit challenging because the rise in temperature, so I'm keeping an eye on all my seedlings that I've got in my greenhouse, and I've switched all my heated propagators off for now. Every seed that I sow, I use a calendar of when I've sown it and when it flowers, so that I've got a record for successional planning for the following year. So I've just looked, and last year I planted Lobelia Crystal Palace, and it took 95 days from seed to flower. So that means this year I can work out my successional planting to ensure that I've got colour all summer. The other thing that I'm doing this week is looking after my spring bulbs. I've got hundreds of tulips in the garden, and it's so beautiful to see them. And to ensure that I've got healthy bulbs for next year, we need to start feeding them. So I use a tomato fertiliser every week, and make sure that you water them regularly as well. Now this has to be done right up until 6 weeks after they have flowered, and that will ensure that you have healthy bulbs for next year. What am I doing this week? Okay, so I sowed my sweet peas in October, and I overwintered them in the greenhouse. 4 weeks ago I moved them into a cold frame to harden off, and this week I've planted them out in the garden. I'll have to keep an eye on frost, because we could still have a frost, but if I do, I'll put some fleece over them. So they've gone in this week. So it's been a fabulous week in the garden. I hope you've enjoyed your garden too, and I really hope I get to speak to you again soon. Thank you, bye.
Oh, I think I've got garden envy with that one. Sounds gorgeous. Don't forget, you can send us your little snippet of what's going on in your garden. Email it across to hello@bitfamous.co.uk, and we'll stick it in the podcast. Now, as much as I love my dad, I don't always listen to what he's got to say, because he does go on a bit. Talks at you. He's one of those. Talks at you. So I just sort of had a half ear, and I got the gist, and then went, yeah, whatever. Can't actually remember what he said about the distance between potatoes. And, my dad is recently, last year, diagnosed with dementia. And most of the time he's fine and dandy. And then the other times he's confused and quite angry, actually. Fair enough. I think I would be if I couldn't remember stuff and it was all a bit frustrating. So it's really nice to get information from him that he confidently talks about, rather than it being a bit wispy in his mind and a bit, he's on a sure foot with that topic. So gardening, for example, gardening tips, how to do stuff. His past, his childhood, I was asking him about that as well yesterday. Something came up in conversation about my nan, his mum, used to do sort of, I say showgirl dancing, but line dancing, like as a troupe in the 1930s, with top hats and canes on the church stage, I think, and tap dancing. And I'd never known where he got his musicality from and his showmanship from, because my dad is a massive show off, I have to say. He loves a musical, does my dad. Right, final one. I put the final spud in. I do like Victoria Wood's joke from the 80s. In Britain, I don't know if you remember, there was a shop that used to sell jacket potatoes called Spud-u-like. But she rather cunningly, cleverly, was referring at one point to Spud-u-like, that new shop on the high street where you can get a jacket potato. Spud-u-like, which I thought was rather marvellous. Right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spuds in, taking up the whole of the bed with nice space about them. They're patted down, they haven't got too much soil on top of them. I'm not going to water them as per Roger's instruction. Roger the Dodger, my dad. It's a shame he couldn't come out to the garden actually yesterday and take a look and do some pointing with his stick at what I should be doing, because I think that would be a nice way of handing on knowledge, wouldn't it? Otherwise we just had to have a bit of a chat about it. A bit of a chat for it and a hope for the best. We'll see. I do like a new potato. Tuna niçoise, salmon salad. It's all good, isn't it?